This episode, we'll check out Jackal on the Nintendo. Then it's on to Ninja Warriors on the Super Nintendo. And last but certainly not least is Gradius V for the PlayStation 2. This is Substance TV. Konami was known for great games on the NES when I was growing up, and one of my favorite little-known titles is a game I like to call...
A Jackal! Jackal!
Yeah,
it's a Jackal!
yes,
it looks like a Jackal! 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 It's a Jackal!
Just shut
Jackal!
up! The premise of Jackal is quite simple. You've got a guy who's going to rescue his buddies and fight bosses in a jeep with guns and grenades. I like it already. Gameplay-wise, this is classic Konami. You've got your gun which fires straight forward at all times, but your grenade can be fired in any direction. Other than that, you can run over the bad guys if you really feel a little bit Grand Theft Auto-ish. See, now this was done way before Grand Theft Auto ever thought of it. As you progress through a level, you kill a ton of baddies, but you get extra points if you rescue hostages and drop them off at helicopter drop points. And what would a Konami game be without a big bad boss at the end of each level? Controls are tight, responsive, and fun. It really just makes the game shine. Graphically, the game is pretty polished. Although it is an 8-bit Nintendo, everything's pretty well defined. I never was confused about what was my Jeep or what was that enemy. You pretty much have an idea about what every tank, turret, and bad guy is. I like all the different locales, like a jungle, or an enemy base, or a desert, or a kind of Roman cathedral thing. I mean, they've got all sorts of stuff for you. And there is no doubt that Konami did the soundtrack to this game. They just have a signature sound like Capcom and other big developers at that time. It's classic synthesized NES 8-bit music, and it really drives the game forward in every level. I personally liked the sound effects when I was a little kid, and I always remember trying to emulate them. The game is moderately difficult, not too hard, not too easy. It's one of those games you'll get through in about 30 minutes, but like its brethren Contra, this is a multiple playthrough session with you and your buddy. And speaking of co-op, this game begs to be played with a second player. So if you've got a buddy who likes arcade games or co-op games, yeah, this is the one for you. Best of all, it's very cheap and should be very easy to find at a local pawn shop. And if not, eBay's selling copies for around $3. You can't lose. In the end, this game is a classic from start to finish. I mean, even compared to other next-gen titles of today, this game holds its own with no problem. Check it out. If you were to look up Ninja Warriors in the dictionary, you would get a definition something like this. A game about ninjas who are warriors. I know, it's quite deep. I won't bore you with the details of the story because ninjas don't need a reason to kill, they just do. I think that should be a rule. From now on, any video game about a ninja should not have any story at all. So you've got a selection from 3 main ninja warriors. You got your main big guy, your little girl in the middle, and then some weird spiny dude who kind of sucks and I don't play with. As far as gameplay goes, this is nothing that's going to break the beat-em-up genre as we know it. It's pretty standard fare. But what it does very well. You've got your standard punches and kicks and grabs. You even got a little bomb meter that fills up so you can bomb the screen and kill all the enemies. And it wouldn't be a beat 'em up without bad guy fodder. You've got guy who stands there and just takes it as I beat him to a bloody pulp. Then you've got my perennial favorite, guy who walks into my wall of fists as I just punch wildly into the air. Past these brain-dead rejects, you've got a whole cast of bad guys, varied enough to keep things from getting too stale. Natsume always had a knack for making games look good no matter what system they were on, and this game is no different. Just like Wild Guns in our previous episode, this game has vibrant colors and interesting levels. Level design is nice, with enough difference in each level visually to give a little delineation between between levels. Plus, bad guys are color-coded for your pleasure. I really like the fact that the character sprites are nice and big. Some people might not be too impressed by the character design, but personally, I think it's just fine. The game's about ninja warriors, and they look like ninja warriors. Case closed. The game utilizes the Super Nintendo sound chip to a T. Each hit, grab, throw makes a nice beefy resounding thud the Super Nintendo is known for. The music is clean, crisp, and fun. Difficulty-wise, this game might pose a bit of a problem at first, but once you get the general gist of it down, you're going to be plowing through this pretty easily. This game is moderately hard to find depending on where you live. If you got a pawn shop or a local game store around town that sells Super Nintendo games, you might check them out first. Otherwise, I guess it's eBay for you. One of the few downsides is there is no co-op play. So all in all, the game's pretty good and a worthy addition to anyone's Super Nintendo collection. Now, while the Gradius series is around 20 years old or so, and they've come out with a bevy of games and spin-offs, I'd like to talk to you boys and girls about Gradius V. Developed by our good friends at Treasure, this game is a virtual orgy of sights, sounds, and rock-solid gameplay. And of course, Vic Viper is back to fight for freedom and justice in the universe from the evil clutches of blah blah and yada yada. You get the whole idea, I think. While I wholeheartedly agree that the story's no Final Fantasy, no one plays Gradius for the story. Gradius V is a shoot-'em-up in the vein of others before it. So the game starts you out in typical Gradius fashion with your choices of weapons. While I won't go into detail about all the weapons, there is a nice new weapon added into Gradius V. It's a direction option. It allows you to change the direction of your laser, so it can go forward, backwards, at a 90-degree angle, whatever you want. It really helps in a lot of those levels where you need to get to enemies that you normally couldn't. Now, the first thing I noticed when I played this game were the amazing graphics, even by today's standards. Now mind you, graphics just aren't all about polygons and pixels. It's about an art style, a color palette, and a whole lot of other options that really have nothing to do with the processing power of the system. This game is a feast for the eyes visually, and I think you can see that for yourself. And even when things get a little crazy on screen, it still runs at a nice smooth 60 frames per second. The soundtrack has a nice techno-poppy feel that really drives the game forward. Every level and every song just fits perfectly together, and they even brought back previous themes from other Gradius games. And to top it all off, the game's co-op. Look, red and blue. Now, I'll admit, the game can be rather difficult, but luckily there's an adjustable setting for those of you not so well versed in the shoot-'em-up genre. This won't be an easy one to find in stores. If you do, you're lucky, but more than likely you'll have to go check eBay. A good copy will cost you around 20 to 30 bucks. This game is right up there with other Treasure classics like Ikaruga and Radiant Silvergun. Don't miss out. And so another Substance TV comes to an end. Now, for the past few weeks, I've been teasing all you viewers about a little contest I was having. What exactly it was, I didn't go into detail about. But I am a man of my word, so I will tell you about this little contest. Many of you have said, Brian, the games you review are great and all, but they're too hard to find or it's expensive. And yes, I understand. Some of the games I review are not the easiest ones to find at your local game store. So how am I going to solve that little dilemma? Easy. Since this episode we reviewed Gradius V for the PlayStation 2, and it's one of the best games on the PS2, and the best co-op games, and a tad bit hard to find, I thought maybe I should give a copy away. So how do you enter this little contest, you say? Well, it's quite easy actually. Go to www.substance-tv.com and register. That's it. Put in a username, password, no scams, no gimmicks, no email list, just register. That's all you gotta do and your name will be automatically registered for the contest. I'll keep this contest going until the next episode of Substance TV, in which I'll announce a winner, and I'll ship it to you free of charge, no cost to you at all. Yeah, I know, I spoil you, but it's because I love you so darn much. I'd also like to give a big thank you to Stuttering Craig over at ScrewAttack.com. I was featured on one of their Sunday featured lists, and, well, needless to say, it gave me some good publicity that I otherwise wouldn't have had, so thanks again, man. And look out for episode number 7 in the next few months to come. Thanks for watching, and as always, game on.